overcome barriers and myths, overcome the us and them. So that was the 7 categories that I had.
Okay, I already had you down for the collect data and the overcome this and that. Yes, them and us. I had you down as a 1 for the navigation center and as a vote for the work case by case.
Right. Okay.
And then a grant writer, I have you down. Warming center, you already had a vote there. What have I missed? Work with nonprofits and churches. Yes, I had your vote there also. So it looks like we had all but 1 of your votes.
Okay, I got, when I went over, I got 7 categories, so I might be wrong. I thought it's divided into housing and shelters, access to services, coordination and partnership.
Okay, so now you need to be working with the spreadsheet. You need to be working with the last spreadsheet I sent you yesterday. Yeah.
So I'm hoping I got this. And homelessness group strategies for prioritization.
And you will see that there's a.
We're now
Okay.
recording.
Let's see who else is here at this point. Well, it's still us. So,
yeah, I have the material printed up,
okay.
and I collated the different categories and my 1 vote, but I didn't do a 2 vote.
You're fine. You're fine.
So I thought you were going to just do the first priority now out of each category.
No, we're not going by categories. You have I sent you a new spreadsheet that had them in an overall rank.
Yeah, I have that. You have 1 to 30.
1 to 30. That is what we're working from today.
Right. Okay. I can still follow along. Thank goodness I'm watching sound.
Okay, so here's Jay.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon. Since I haven't heard from Seamus, I would expect him to be here. He hasn't told me he wouldn't.
I'm going to move my computer here.
So Tita, how long do you want to wait for before we start?
I'm not going to go past 1:05. So let's just see if we have any more people join us.
Okay, and Jay, just a heads up, I've been notified you're first because you have to leave early. So I will call on you first and to go through all of Tita's questions in one shot for you. Everybody else will do it in a round robin, but we'll capture your thoughts first, if that works for you.
I don't have the questions in front of me, but I did review them earlier, but maybe we could put them up some way.
Okay.
I don't have a way to put them up.
I can read them to you.
We can read them to you,
Okay,
though.
all right, good, good.
Let's go ahead and get started with the mayor, and then we can go from there. So the first question, Jay, is, do you agree with the rankings as they came out? Do you have any concerns about the way they came out?
No, generally in agreement.
Okay.
And Tita, you're taking the notes, right?
Yes.
And I'll read the
Go ahead.
questions to Jay.
Be my guest.
Okay. So the second one is, which items seem to be similar and could be combined?
Well, the warming center and the navigation center, I think similar. Beyond that, I thought they pretty much stood on their own.
Okay.
Can I ask if you agree with the combination of the two funding ones? Where are we going to get funds and a grant writer?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yes, definitely.
Okay. And which items do you think have the most potential for the city and the city partners to move forward?
Well, the two that I just mentioned, the navigation center and the warming center have the greatest potential. And I have a quasi announcement about that I've just learned. So when we get to the end, I'll tell you what I've learned about that.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay. And which items do you think have the least potential for the city and the city partners to move forward?
Well, I wish I had the list in front of me. Trying to remember. I think the campgrounds or car parks are problematic unless there is on-site management. That's one. I don't have any other comments on that.
So let's make a note on that. Tita,
I
that
did.
car parks need on-site management.
I did. Good
Okay.
deal.
Good. Looking at the ranked items, note which you think could be accomplished within 6 months or 12 months.
I wish I had.
So why don't you just kind of go down the list and see if he wants to identify any as 6 months or 12 months.
Okay, these are not in order. I don't have the printed one in order.
Okay.
So the demonstration project for transitional housing, tiny homes, micro shelters, policy.
12 months.
Okay, managed campgrounds for sites with tents, cars, and RVs with management.
12 months or more.
Permanent supportive housing and services so they can stay sheltered.
Housing shortages, 12 months. Yeah.
Okay, and the next question is actually, what would you put past 12 months? So if there's any that you're looking, that she mentions, that
Okay.
you see more than 12 months, go ahead and say that.
Okay. All right. The last one, more than 12 months.
Okay, develop program matching vacation, that's not a high priority. Vacation rental owners with vetted homeless individuals.
More than 12 months.
Planning
if ever.
Planning for a warming center this winter, low barrier shelter.
6 months.
Navigation center that provides mailing address, etc.
6 months.
Police designate a person on staff as a point
Hold
of
on.
contact.
Hold on. Hold on. Okay, keep going.
Okay, police designate a person on staff as point of contact for homeless.
6 months.
RV hookups and sewer dump capacity.
12 months or more.
Case management.
6 months.
Okay, anonymous practical everyday support recovery program.
12 months.
Yeah, you know what? I think that the anything that's lower than halfway down the list.
Those are long range.
But those are what the group didn't even find important, and I think that's what we anything that's got 0 or 1, which maybe even which would be the CBH bills the state, anonymous practical everyday support, increase staffing in all areas, identify and separate sex offenders, RV hookups and sewer dump, Rotary Club, invest in the community, etc. And the vacation rental, those all got fewer than 3 votes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I think the anonymous practical everyday support, I think I heard Seamus say that can be done now right away. So and probably just can go do it.
Well, it's
Okay.
being done already.
Yes.
So,
Okay, the
It is
next one,
absolutely being
Jay.
done already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay, the next one for you, work with nonprofits and churches to build partnerships,
6 months.
continue coordinated planning
oh,
group.
hold on. All right. Sorry, I'm not as fast as you guys. All right.
Continue coordinated planning group, homelessness, team approach, community solutions built for zero consultants.
Continuing 6 months.
Okay.
That's our group we're talking about, isn't it? Yeah.
And more.
Yeah.
Work with city and county partners coordinated to learn from each other.
6 months.
Have a liaison specific to Seaside rather than relying on the 2 that CCA has.
I think there is a potential for that. So let's say 6 months.
Okay. Quick approval, not awaiting for updating the comprehensive plan.
12 months.
Use of large empty public buildings.
12 months.
Update the comprehensive plans to include special needs people and homeless people.
Comprehensive plan takes at least 12 months to update.
Okay. Code compliance for scattered sites requiring that property is well maintained and managed.
I think that could be done in 6 months.
Identify and separate sex offenders and those with warrants.
Boy, I don't know. 12 months, let's say.
Okay.
Can I ask a question really quick? I'm sorry, and I never got this. I didn't ask it when we were in last week's meeting, but when the conversation about use of large empty public buildings, is that referring to city-owned public buildings, or just are you looking at overall empty building stock? Because does the city have a lot of empty buildings?
I understood it was referring to the 2 public buildings that are currently vacant in Seaside.
Being the school district buildings? Okay, no?
No, they're both owned by the city.
Oh, the school buildings are owned by the city, or?
No, the
Oh, you
buildings,
have 2 separate buildings. Okay,
buildings, there are 2 public buildings owned by the city.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're now, Jay, we're now in funding. Increase staff in all areas.
12 months.
Money, how do we get more in the county?
Well, there is some potential of some federal funds, so I would say 6 months there.
Okay, experts in grant writing, knowledge of HUD.
I don't know of any, so I'm going to say 12 months.
Behavioral health bills, the state, so that's not really an item, is it?
No, it's not.
Rotary Club, invest in the community,
Rotary Club, etc.
etc.
I have no feeling for that, so let's say 12 months.
Okay. And Tita, I recognize I'm not looking at the list that had these things combined, so we'll just have to.
Don't worry about it.
Answer.
Yeah, I
Okay,
can
so-
apply it.
All right, data on successes and barriers. Jay, collect data on people being served in a housing strategy, needs and services provided.
12 months.
Data on people in the housing system, who, how helped, success.
I have a feeling that's available, so let's go 6 months on that.
Okay. Communicate good work to the community.
Yeah.
Progress.
Ongoing, 6 months.
Okay. And the last category, overcoming barriers and myths. How do we get out of status quo thinking? Identify systemic blocks to affordable housing.
Ongoing. I think that's something that we need to be doing right now. So yes, 6 months.
Okay. Work case by case to solve issues for individual people.
Yeah, 6 months.
And then overcome the us and them, the sheltered versus unsheltered.
Well, that's an ongoing process. I'm not sure we can even get that done in 12 months, but let's hope we can.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, that's everybody, all the lists for Jay.
Well, the
So,
reason for those of you who logged on as we were doing this, I have to leave early, sadly, today. I have another meeting. And so they were getting me up front. But before I log off, Tita and group, I've been in contact with 2 people in our community or in the area who want to remain anonymous at this point, who have a plan for a warming center and a navigation center. And I'll know more about that as we go forward. But if that were to come to pass, that could happen within weeks, not months.
wonderful.
So I'm encouraged by that. It would be a central, apparently I've been told, a central location in Seaside. And the groups would manage that. It would be a low barrier shelter. And so I'll keep you posted on that. That would be, it's to me, it's my highest priority, a navigation center and a warming center, because it's something that needs to happen right now because of the weather coming and the weather that was here last weekend or last several days. So I'll keep you posted on that as I learn more and as they give me permission to reveal more.
Mayor, if you have an opportunity when you can, if you could give me a call as soon as possible, because in the county's concept funding for the ARPA funds, we do have money set aside for a navigation center. And there is the navigation center that is now up and running in Astoria that we are looking at providing funding to, but we recognize the need for a South County one as well. So if we could sit down and have a conversation, that would be great.
Okay, well, we'll do that. You bet.
Thanks.
Sounds wonderful.
And thanks for bringing us some good news. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
we need it. We need some action. You bet.
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep you posted. Thank
right.
you. And I'm sorry I have to leave early. I'll see you next week. Hopefully nothing will get in the way next time.
Okay.
Good to see you. Thank you all for the time you're investing. Thank you, Tita.
Thanks.
Okay, so now our process is going to shift a little bit. We're going to do round robin based on the questions that Tita asked. So not going through the whole long list, but just giving each person a chance to answer the question. So we'll go through the first question.
Can I ask a favor to start off with?
Yes.
I am making notes and I am working off the last spreadsheet that I sent you all. And it's really difficult for me to use a different, if you're jumping around on a different spreadsheet, we can kind of go in the same order that has the items actually as they came out ranked by the votes. Can we do that?
Is there anyone that is not able to do that? Raise your hand or wave your hand. Okay, looks like we're good.
Okay.
All right, so the first question is, Seamus?
I just have a question. In the email the spreadsheet was attached to, it said that the votes would be ranked by ones instead of ones and twos, giving
Correct.
them all like balance. But then in the spreadsheet, I don't know if it was just my copy, but neither of the spreadsheets that you sent as attachments to those 2 emails had them ranked that way.
That's interesting because I'm looking at the spreadsheet I sent, and it's not the ranking, it's the voting. Everybody's vote counted 1.
Right. Then when I look along that far left column that tallies them, they're taking the first one, for instance, which let me use my scroll button here. Nell voted for to put it in second. Dale said 1, Frank said 1, and I said 1, and then it's, well, that one doesn't actually have a tally.
I'm
I-
guessing
okay.
that's not the most current
Maybe
one
I'm
that
not-
Tita sent
Maybe I
out.
don't have the right one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it
It's
would have
the-
been recent.
One way you can tell that it's the right one is that there is a column in purple that's called overall rank.
Yeah, neither of mine had that.
Yeah, I do have this one. I think you have the old one.
This is the one I sent out. I just opened it. Let me go back to what I sent you and reopen it. Okay,
It was sent at 5:50 yesterday.
right.
Right.
I'm reopening it, and I just opened it, and that's what opened. I don't understand
I don't
why.
know, can you scroll all the way right? Yeah, maybe just say setup on your computer because
No,
I'm
it's not.
seeing
And
from my phone with the purple right there. So
I don't have anything in purple at all.
I think we can move forward. I think we just
Would you go back to your email, the last email you got from me at 5:50 and reopen that? Close what you have and reopen what I sent you at 5:50. Does everybody else have that one?
That's the one I'm working from.
Okay. Does everybody else have one with the purple stripe?
I have one, and it's called overall rank from 1 to 30.
Monica, is that what you have?
I have the one with the purple column that says overall rank.
Right.
Yeah.
Ariel?
That's what I have.
What
Okay,
column would that be?
it's column O.
For me, column O is Ariel.
Then somehow I don't know how you got the wrong one. The only thing I can,
Can I resend you, what Tita sent yesterday?
Please do.
Okay.
It's going to take me a moment. I don't have Excel, so I have to transfer it to another program, but
Oh, I wonder if maybe that's what's
that's the
happening.
it
problem.
shouldn't. It takes Excel programs just fine. It shouldn't have removed any information. Certainly not to have removed entire columns.
I think we all have the latest one, but you. So I think what we need to do here, like let's move forward, right? So
Yeah.
Well, it'd be best if we
Seamus-
move forward all on the same page, though.
Yeah, Seamus, you need to close
we
down
can forward to you, yeah.
everything else you
Cannot
have.
we like a screen share? Cannot we screen share so that he can see what
Screen
exactly?
share would be great.
We're not,
Yeah.
I'm not set up to do that. I don't know if anybody
Okay.
else is.
I don't know how to screen share.
There is a like, there is a like screen share on the bottom. On the
Post disabled participant screen sharing. We can't
Right.
screen share.
Okay.
Yeah, Jordan's the only one who can screen share.
So I think she can
was
give
saying-
that. We can give her the permission to
Yes,
obey the
that
host.
If somebody could email me the updated one, then that would be great. Apparently, both of mine, for whatever reason, I don't know, came through as the old copy.
I just sent it to you, so let me know if you didn't get it. I believe I sent it to your email that ends, I think it's a Gmail account
Checking right now.
or hotmail.com.
Is it a Hotmail?
Yeah.
And I just updated it so everyone should be able to screen share. So Tina,
Okay,
you should be able to do that.
Can you
let me see
screen
if I
share,
can do
Jordan?
that. Share screen. And which one do I want to share?
Yeah.
Did you get something?
I'm looking at it I'm looking for it right now. It's in the email. I'm just transferring it over.
Can everybody see the screen share I did?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
share. You can see there's the best way. to-
Ow, something
Yeah.
new.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that
Something really
also,
weird.
I lose all of your pictures, however, and so that makes
No,
it
you can
difficult.
see on the right hand side. There should be like you can
It
go like
does, but not everybody. So
you can go
we're
like
gonna
setup, view, and you can set up with that like smaller size. If you go to view on the right hand side,
view.
In the upper right.
upper right.
Oh,
on
oh,
the-
upper right. Thank you. View side by side gallery. Side by side gallery. We'll try
Yeah,
that.
try it like different way, then you can just see which one you're comfortable
There we
with.
go. And all right. So if I'm not seeing the people I can see are Seamus, and Seamus, if you can put your hand down, then you can move, your picture will move. And I can see Rick and Tita and Sharon and Monica and Masood. And
Jordan is here.
so I cannot see Ariel is the only one I can't see.
Area in the bottom, maybe just if you just drag your screen a little bit up, then you can see her somehow. She's the last one, and she actually not her. She's less there. She has no video.
My video's off. I apologize, but I'm
That's
here.
all right.
And if I need you to hear from me, I'll make sure you can see me.
Okay. Yeah. If you raise your hand electronically, then you go to the top position. So that's always a way of.
Yep, happy to do that.
Attention.
So what we need to do then is start off, I think, with the first question. We don't have to look at the rankings, but as you look at rankings and you look to see as a group what rose to the top, what fell to the bottom, do you have any concerns about those rankings, and do you agree with them?
So we'll do a round robin on that, or just raise your hand if you've, on this one, let's just raise your hand if you have any concerns or disagreements about the rankings that you want to express. Rick, I see your hand.
Yeah, just in general, it doesn't take into account the short-term, long-term, and the parallel that we could sometimes get. So that just wasn't included in the spreadsheet. So there may be something lower down that we could actually be working on as a separate activity.
This is Ariel. I agree with that. I mean, what's showing up at the top of mine is collecting data on people experiencing homelessness, and that to me seems like a very strong parallel. It's not like a number one action that the city would be leading on, that it comes with other strategies, excuse me.
And Seamus, I see your chat. What do you mean? Can you say more about that?
Well, that I still don't have the purple line or any of that stuff, even in the updated one that Monica just sent.
Okay.
So for whatever reason that's going.
There are 3 tabs. I'm not sure which tab you are. This one is by type.
Yeah, I know how to use a spreadsheet. Thank you.
So
I'm
we'll
just trying to help
Can you look at the spreadsheet that I'm sharing on the screen?
Yes, I can. I can see what everybody else is seeing. Yes.
Great. So I think that's what
we'll be doing. Okay. Any other comments about whether you agree with the ratings? Any concerns?
I think that it makes sense. Data should be always important. Without data, you cannot do anything, right? So data should be like, I think number 1 is here because we always need to feeding the data so that we can have our decision right. So that's kind of one of the things I think it makes sense to be number 1, because we have to always see the data, but not that they are going to only do the data, right? So it's, I don't know how you see it, but the second one is the navigation center, which our mayor just told that, there's a really hope on there. So it's kind of makes sense. The number 2, which is it should be like a number 1 priority. If we just say data is always important, it should be always the number 1 because we need the information.
So that could be maybe the difference between what I'm going to call the hard and versus the soft. The hard is more action, where the soft is like the data.
I don't get that, because it takes action to get the data. It takes action also to define what data you want, so that it's real data that's useful to show accountability and not just data that goes into grants for funding. It's a different kind of data that we need to assess whether we're making a difference or not.
Ariel?
Well, my perspective on that is, I know Vivian is not here, but I believe the providers have data, those who are, currently providing services. And so I agree with Tita. I don't see the data as an action item, even though it's something that needs to happen. It's already happening. And I think that it's parallel or connected to the action item of standing up a navigation center or a shelter, that it comes with it. So yeah,
not action item. Yeah, the action item, but it should be like always there.
Mhm.
And you know what? I'm going to move back a little bit on what I just said, because I agree with what Nell said. Until I know what data is being collected, I don't know that the data we need to have collected is being collected. One set of data could be just these people were referred, or these people appeared in our office. 10 people appeared in our office. But unless I also have the data that tells me what happened to each of those 10 people, what was the outcome? Did they in fact get into housing? Did they in fact get their need met? I don't have complete data, and I don't know what all the data elements are that CCA keeps. Unless you know your outcomes, you don't really know whether you're successful.
I think
Yeah, so
that
it's
rather
kind of
than
called like
create new data, it might be better to work with CCA and identify the type of data that you need.
Yeah,
because
that's what I was gonna
because I
say.
think that what you're looking for is probably information that they have. It might just not be getting conveyed in the way that you need it to be.
So it's kind of can be feedback, can be like, the monitoring, supervising data. So it depends on which data you have more important, right? So like, for example, I have a quick question. Like I was on the Seaside overnighting a couple of days ago. So I kind of walking to the city around 10:30 to see like how the city looks like at night, because I live in Portland and I usually don't go that late. And to see like how many homeless we have, what exactly happening. When I go to Portland, I see a lot of people, and it's obvious that you see that, but I don't know like that we have a data like how many people we are talking about, right? Of course we have to solve the problem regardless, small or big. Like, is there that we need a shelter for 100 of them, or like there's the data we need, right? So do we have that data question? So and I didn't see much people like at the night. I don't see that everywhere there's a homeless in the seaside, where I usually see the big cities. So to me, we are much better shape than other people that have been facing huge problem. But as I said, like in the group, also we may need some data to make our decision right.
Yeah. I see Rick has his hand up.
Yeah, just chime in on a focus on data. CCA certainly collects a lot of data, but other groups do as well. So it's, the domestic violence from, I just spaced out the name of their program, but
the Harbor.
there are many other nonprofits that are touching the homeless, and there's not one central source of data or coordination. And again, it's one thing to collect data for grant writing, it's another thing to collect data for decision making.
Yeah, thank you. And Sharon, you have your hand up?
Tina mentioned that questionnaire that was used by the CTA or one of the Astoria nonprofits. And I would like to get a copy of that questionnaire. Do you know which one I was talking about?
The question, I think you're talking about the questionnaire or the input sheet that CCA uses, and I can make sure that goes out to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Sharon, can you put your hand down now? So
Yeah, sorry.
I know that you've been addressed. All right, so the next question, which items seem to be similar and could possibly be combined? Now, this should be a quick one. Anything more that you see that could be combined together, similar issues?
The mayor had indicated he thought that the warming center and the navigation center could be combined. I think that the two funding items that I decided to combine on my own, I think those can be combined. And I think that probably the two data items could be combined.
Any objections? Okay.
And I gotta see, yeah, it would be data number 16 with data, and I'm saying the overall rank, with the overall rank of number 1.
That looks good. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. So which items do you think have the most potential for the city and city partners to move forward? Any hands?
Well, based on the information that we just received from Mayor Barber, I think that you have momentum towards that navigation and warming shelter. And so those, if I were to rank something that is going to be a immediate outcome, those would be at the very top and where my focus would go.
And I also want to think that, yeah, there's actually already, he mentioned that maybe we will have a good news, but I think there are a lot of funding out there. Maybe we need to kind of focus on how we can kind of know about more details about the funding situation so that we can know exactly what we can do. Like, for example, if we go for a permanent solution for them, like I saw some of them, like the housing, right? Tiny houses. So we need land, we need a place that it suits, you know, so there's a lot of investment there to make these plans. So I think we need to also work on the funding, you know, capability. That should be one of the priority.
Yes.
I also think I kind of disagree with the mayor where he thought that there was little possibility for I'm going to call it the car park, and then he put the caveat that it would need to be managed. I think that for me, that was always there, a managed car park. But I believe that that has potential, finding places for people to park their cars or their RVs. I think the other thing that has potential is additional liaison staffing, whether it be, well, definitely through the Seaside Police Department, possibly another one from CCA just for Seaside. But I would put more emphasis on an SPD liaison.
Any other thoughts? Oh, Rick?
Yeah, just with the most potential, it's easy to look at just the simple things to get going with. But I'm concerned if we're just focused on short-term solutions that will overlook some intermediate. So some transitional housing, whether it's tiny homes or some other approach to get housing. I mean, it's housing that solves homelessness is our catchphrase. But the warming center is certainly a good start, but we need the next step beyond a warming center.
I agree 100%, but I think that you're only going to be able to accomplish so many tasks at a time.
It's true. Yeah.
Some tasks, I'm not sure. There's some things that can be accomplished simultaneously if there are different people and different funding sources working on them. So it depends if it's colliding staff, and yes, the same people can only work on so many things at a time coming from the same funding pool. But there are things that can go on simultaneously if they're not from the same staff or funding pool.
I think that kind of goes back to your increased staff in all areas. And does the city have the staffing at this time? Or is it going to be a separate volunteer effort?
Right.
I think we need a staffing for sure to make sure that, everything, like we ever make a decision or the plan, somebody has to execute, volunteer will be really difficult to we need some stuff, and then volunteer can help with the upper level. A lot of stuff that we need as staff for sure. Also, we need funding also. Yeah. Yeah, I think everything is important. It just, question is priority. Yes, that's true.
Okay. Did we ask which items do you think are the least potential for the city and partners to move forward?
Well, I think there's least potential in matching VRD owners with vetted homeless individuals. I'm going to say this in true sadness, and this has to do with community partners. The work that I've been doing since the beginning of the year leads me to believe that the potential for getting partnerships from our churches is very low. We have one church that hosts the Sunday supper. That's great. But I know that people who go to other churches don't even know about the Sunday supper efforts. And if they did, they would most likely help. I have not seen coordination amongst our churches. And I have to say, I haven't seen a lot of interest from our churches, which is very, very disappointing for me. I was happy to hear just a little earlier from Sharon that there might be some movement with the Methodist Church. But I counted about a dozen churches that are Seaside connected. And knowing that, number one, they don't seem to talk to each other, knowing that, number two, most of them didn't even respond to invitations, I'm just very concerned that that part of the community, which does have some potential, is not even joining in on the conversations.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. However, it comes to my mind that with the Warming Center Navigation Center, that may provide a hub in Seaside and staff that can reach out and, for instance, get churches to sign up for one lunch a month, or whatever they're able to do. And it's very difficult to do that without some coordination and having a central location. So that may change. We can
Yeah,
keep our
I think
fingers
so.
crossed.
They will have a place to coordinate, and if we have a coordinator, and I think a lot of time people want to do that, but they just maybe don't know what to go. So that will probably help definitely, and then we can work with them. That there's a system in place. We have space. We have people, and that's what we want to do. I think we can approach different way, but it's a good idea as how we can bring them back or bring them. That's a good strategy, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Others that you see have I see Seamus. Go ahead, Seamus.
I'm curious if we can even identify and actually say who are the community partners that we're trying to partner with. Like Tita said, the churches are, for whatever reason, either unwilling or unable. So who else are we looking to?
Do you want to start naming some? Who do you see as community partners?
Yeah, like it can be hoteliers, it can be
Yeah.
restaurant owners. There are so many people can partner, right? For example, if I know that once a quarter I can feed for my company, I can just say, sometimes we cannot do that all the work because we are so busy, but we can be supported financially or other stuff. We can do that. Like for example, as a community partner, as a hotelier, why don't we do it? But right now I just start thinking it. So everybody can participate in their way, but we have to just kind of go to them as Seamus mentioned, like who should we go and target people, like hotel, restaurant owner, shop owners, and right. I don't know, like there's enough. We have those.
Well, and looking at groups and nonprofits, and I'm going to stick the Rotary back in there. I'm going to put in SDDA. I'm going to put chamber, and some of
I
this.
think local business owner, because sometimes we always going to Rotary, we were going to SDDA. They are like tired of hearing that okay, we need help. But sometimes if we approve someone that they are hungry for help, but they don't know how to help, I think that's probably the best bet to go places. We can give it a try. But they're always helping us, so we always go to them. But this is a club for helping people, right? That's their things. But we can also, because I don't know like how many people. There's something like when I was walking to the other night. So how many people were trying to solve and what are the problems? Because for example, for me, like I'm not like staying Seaside, but I go there twice a week. I spend a lot of time working with my employees, mostly like not involved as much as the community, but I have people that I work around the community. For example, we are talking about the shelter or housing. So the question came to my mind, like whether we should focus on the shelter, is the people need for like, we have to identify the people need first, right? So sometimes, of course, you probably know, but for me, I feeling that, making a permanent, I was thinking about how we can get a place that they can stay, tiny houses. Like there are a lot of examples in Portland, Seattle, other places. Can we do in Seaside? Yes, I know that Seaside is a very small city, but there's a place we can do that for them, make it small community. So they know they have a space, but are they going to stay there for 1 year, or they're going to just come here and leave? They don't want to be staying. We shelter or warming center is enough. So that's a lot of like, if you say small amount, small place people, I don't know, maybe they're thinking about the short long-term housing, probably not an option here. So I don't know. Yeah. So that's a priority for the long-term option. So we have to define, we are talking about shelter, or we're working about the housing. If it's housing is long-term or short-term or shelter, because then we can start thinking how we can help, how the community people can help, where do we need to go?
Yeah.
So, but that's a good way to. But I'm saying, like, do you know like how many people we are trying to solve the problem? How big it is in Seaside compared to the like other cities?
Well, the last count was that there are about 1,000 homeless people in the county. Viviana indicated that 30 to 40% of their efforts, of CCA's efforts, are in Seaside. So if you take that as a computation, maybe we're talking about 400 people.
Oh, that's a lot. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, some of those are probably just couch surfing. They're not all on the street.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Anything-
think
Sorry,
when
interruption. Go ahead. Yes.
right. And when we're looking at these two questions about what do you think has the most potential and what do you think has the least potential, I think we're also getting into the question of where do we see low-hanging fruit where we can effect success more quickly. And if in fact what the mayor told us earlier today is going to happen and happens, that takes in a lot right away. But again, you're not going to know the success of a shelter or a resource center, I'm calling it, if you don't have some data on it. So again, everything dovetails.
Yeah. Anything more on the least potential items that you want to name?
Well, you know, if you just look at what the overall rankings are, you know, I would just remove from even our thinking RV hookups and sewer dump capacity. I just don't think that that's going to happen. That ranked number 28 out of 30. The VRD owners, I don't think we can take out, identify and separate sex offenders and those with warrants. I think that goes hand in hand with some data and and also some not no barrier, but low barrier. I think the behavioral health bills the state. I think that at this point, I mean, that's really going to be long term unless they end up opening a program on their own.
Yeah, as long as, like, you know, we agree the ranking, if it can be there, right? You are like almost end of the ranking, so that's what I'm saying, you know. So I think we are right. Yeah.
Well, you do now have behavioral health located in Seaside. They've recently purchased a couple of buildings, so they are a potential partner to the city in whatever actions.
Well, they're going to have what they've told the community so far is that they're going to have offices, so some clinical space, but that they're going to have, I think, 4, maybe 5 housing spaces.
Right. Yeah.
Now, how they choose the people for their housing, again, you know, that's up to them because it's their housing.
So how much, what is the ranking, if I see, please, like, you know, to find the people and educate them? This is very important, right? To tell that what the options they have, right? We talked about, I missed a couple of meetings, sorry. But it is like, you know, is it low or is it, I think this probably immediately we can start. There's more intellectual property and the people volunteer or psychiatric or some people county can help. I don't know, like we must have some programs like that. So are we doing something like that right now?
I'm wondering if you're talking about a navigation center where people can find out what.
No, more like mental, like, you know, what the options they have, educations to them. One of the things we discussed, right? Education center.
Well, I think that is going to start in a navigation center because that's going to be the first.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and hopefully CBH would be a partner in that navigation center and have people meeting clients there. That's what a navigation center is in my mind, anyway. So.
Yeah, so it depends on the, like, you know, if a navigation is which scale, right? If we want to say somebody knows what the opportunity they have, like they have to know like full scale. So, you know, and then we can always refer to people, yeah, from the navigation center.
Right, because a navigation center if you think about CBH meeting with clients, that's clinical. That's a clinical office space. And in a navigation center, it's going to be more a self-help, provide you information and maybe point you in the direction. But I wouldn't see anybody, whether it's medical or mental health or substance abuse, actually having offices in a navigation center. And
So
again,
Tita,
it's going to be.
We'll need to talk about that when we get more down into the details, because I see it differently, but we don't need to talk about that, the details so much here at this time. Because it looks like the navigation center is rated highly from this group. And
Oh,
would be
yes.
yeah. So the next item question is identifying the length of time. So a short term would be like 6 months.
I think we got a couple of hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a midterm is.
Before we transition to that, I just wanted to throw in a thought around that line item, behavioral health bills the state. To me, it was bigger, and maybe it falls into the funding thing, but we're kind of used to a grant model where you get N number of dollars to do a particular project. And what I really like about the CBH model, and potentially through our CCO, is it's a medical billing model. So it's the number of touches that you've got, the number of services that you've got. There's an outfit in Lincoln County that gets reimbursements through their CCO. And again, it's a medical touch model. So they're providing services. So it's a funding stream instead of just a dollar grant for $5,000 or $100,000. And that's what I want to tie into, whether it's in this line item or a general funding thing. But I just don't want to lose track that there's potential through the CCO.
Yes, I think that that's very important. We have not mentioned the CCO in the past, and we need to make sure that we keep them as a potential partner.
Yeah. And so maybe that item, rather than removing it, we can put it into the funding bucket, the CBH comment, the comment about CBH billing. All right. So are we ready to move on to the timelines here? Short term, midterm, long term. And maybe let's just start with the short term. Anybody want to vote for or identify some of these items as short term in your mind?
Well, I think that navigation center and warming center, they need to be short term. We need to work on those and get those up and running.
Yes. Ariel?
And maybe to just answer this for me, but my question was, is this what we think is a short-term project, or what we want to, what you want to start in the near term, because it's going to take some time, not, kind of go back to that low-hanging fruit versus, what's a longer project? I guess I have a hard time understanding which one we're talking about.
Well, you're right. It could be either way. We could have a long-term project that we want to start right away. So Tita, how do you want to define this?
Well, if you look at the question, it says, which do you think could be accomplished within 6 months? I'm looking at the word accomplished. For me, that means running, up and running, or
urgency.
Yeah. So, and that's, I'm not saying we're going to work on it for 6 months. I'm saying
it will be pretty much like, we can go to the priority, like from 1 to 10 or 1 to 4 will be 3 months, and because your priority will be always, that we have to do first. So in terms of like, you already have done that study by doing the priority, right? So
Well, something that ranks very low or lower on the priority scale that in my mind could be up and running in 6 months, definitely, is a car
Okay.
park, a managed car park.
But if it's not a priority, then you have so many tasks. Like, how are you gonna? Why should you do that? Like, rather than not doing the stuff in your priority list because of we don't have enough funding, or we have the resource that we can do rather than doing the first 10 because we're waiting for something, and then we have the source and funding, and then so that's kind of different story, right? So it's like work. How are we gonna work on it?
Well, I don't take the priority list as this is the way we have to do everything in this order. This is the way that our group voted as to be what they think is important. But there may be things that the group thought of as less important that we might be able to get done faster than something else.
Yeah, I know what I understand what you're saying. Yes, so
Other 6-month projects?
I think designing a data set, I would say that can be done and accomplished within 6 months.
Who would be doing that?
I don't think that's what we have to figure out.
Yeah. I think once we identify who can and is willing to do that, then the job may take 6 months. Or less.
See, I'm going to say, I don't think our discussion here needs to identify who's doing things. We're looking at what's the importance and what do we need to get done.
You're setting
the
a
funding, we should
timeframe
put
for it to
funding.
be
We should know about
accomplished
funding.
in.
Whoops.
Hold on.
Sorry.
I was
Monica?
gonna say, if you're setting a time frame for it to be accomplished in, and you don't have somebody identified who will be able to do the work, it's gonna be one of those things that, why in 6 months is this not done?
I think they're saying that, let's identify the issue and then we can allocate the work. So first, maybe we should make a timeline for each of them. Like this is 3 months, 6 months. So like, the timeline. So, so we can just make a chart.
Okay.
And have all the items, timeline, when is this to start and how long is it gonna go? Is it continue or is it in 6 months? So data, like for example, needs to start like soon. And then in the funding needs to start soon, right? Most like planning, funding, data, all needs to become first. And small items like warming center, because as Mayor said, that this needs to become first because winter is coming. Short-term solution, maybe working with the doctors or something, how we can help mentally support them. That can be started soon because you don't need too much things to do. But if we need to building tiny houses, apartments, like, all the stuff, that's gonna take time, but we need also start for the planning. So I think we just, all the items that are important, we just need to be more like, go to more details. What are the items we need to do for each line items?
I'm afraid that we're starting to move away from what the final purpose of our group is, and that is to recommend to the city council.
When we're doing the job, yes.
Yeah. We're not doing the job of saying these are all the things that have to be done, and this is the timeline, and this is who can do it. Our job is to recommend strategies for the city council to put into action.
Yeah, then we are in the right directions. Yeah, so we're telling that this is the identify as that we should start immediately. This is the things are the items. I think we are pretty close here.
Right.
We are trying to accomplish. Yeah, good job. Yeah.
I would also say that within 6 months, we should be able to accomplish the the communication and education and what do I want to say here? The identification of some chipping away at that us and them thing.
So like, is it like, I'm sorry, maybe I'm talking too much today because I was trying to understand. So is this something you like after a point, your goal is to make a presentation at going to the city and saying, we identify these things, this is the items, and there's I think we are priority, this is the data, and this is what we need to do, and this is the recommendation, please take it, right? So that's kind of your goal. So you're kind of gathering all the information and make a final presentation to the city with a recommendation and why we think this is important, the data behind it. So you need more data and more information, more.
And it's more the what than all the steps of the how.
Yeah, the sources, the different informations adding their sources.
Mm-hmm.
Got it, yeah.
Seamus, do you have your hand raised?
I do. The communication and overcoming us versus them one is one that really can be taken care of over the course of a few weeks. It's a matter of getting a venue and getting the people to get up and share their stories, and then putting out the information of where and when. It's not some overly complicated thing that requires funding and so forth, with the possible exception of paying for the venue itself. Of all of the things on the list, it is, from what I can see, the easiest to possibly take care of in any kind of immediate fashion, and really isn't something that needs to get bogged down in details right now.
Thank you. And Rick?
Yeah, the funding, I think there's a short-term, medium, and a long-term window into the funding. In other words, we've got some things that can be done in 6 months, unless the anonymous folks that the mayor is talking about is coming in with a huge pack of funding. We're going to need to get funding for the short-term things, the medium-term things, and the long-term. So the funding, I don't want to wait for a year to get started on it. We need to start on it as soon as we can.
Oh, thank you. And Sharon?
The partnering with other agencies, I haven't heard anyone mention Helping Hands and the fundraising that Alan Evans has been doing over the years. I think we can learn a lot from his model. It was a combination of rehab and a kind of religious overtone with his AA meetings and Bible studies. So, and he educated the community quite a bit just by example. Another person would be R.J. Marks, is a reporter for the Seaside Signal, seems to have some interest in the homeless issue and has published several articles. I don't know how sympathetic the articles appear, but the fact that we're getting out there publicly to inform and educate is an important aspect of making the community understand that instead of random camping and random RVs everywhere, to have a shelter and a housing system in place to funnel those people out of what you call ad hoc situations that create garbage and all kinds of chaos with people because it isn't printed. And the idea is to constantly publish articles and keep partnership with successful programs like Helping Hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Sharon. All right. Is there anything more that anyone wants to say about the short-term, long-term, midterm?
I believe that we could add to the short term the SPD liaison.
anything more?
I would make a pitch for some of the communication stuff to happen in the short term or alongside with some of the maybe hard or concrete strategies. So I think Seamus brought up the overcoming misconceptions about on the us versus them. But also I strongly suggest having kind of like a communications lead or someone who's helping clearly communicate out what the city's plan is, what the steps are, and continuously updating that to the community and the media and stuff like that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Tita, did you capture from that?
Yeah, because that's already in there.
Okay.
Communication amongst us versus them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to get some, I like the word media, using media, having somebody who's a media, using the media to communicate.
Yeah, because I think I think it's, I think what Seamus was talking about, there's, having a community forum, getting a venue, having those important conversations about us versus them. But I think it's also important to communicate out what the city's doing and what the plans are, who the partners are, what the community can expect.
Yeah.
And keeping that updated as you progress.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, so the last question we have is, which items would make the most difference for those who are homeless? Any thoughts on that? Seamus?
I think obviously the warming shelter and navigation center would be first and foremost, with the warming center possibly coming even ahead of the navigation center. I think the navigation center could piggyback on the warming center. I think that anything that could be done to break down the barriers between the houseless population and the housed population is also something that should be prioritized as far as actually making a difference for those living outdoors.
Thank you. Rick?
Yeah, I love the idea of the warming center. It'll make a short-term impact. I was surprised at the number of vacancies in the Astoria Warming Center with the hardcore chronic homeless. Many of them were not interested. They just wanted to kind of be left alone. So they wanted a place where they wouldn't be hassled. And I'm not sure that's going to really show up on our list. But identifying a place people can be is a huge deal. And honestly, in terms of items that would make the most difference, the warming center and navigation center are certainly good, but let's don't forget housing. Both, whatever we can do, housing is to me the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and I just want to put in a plug there for the tiny homes, because the comments that I see from people who are housed in them, it's like having a door that they can lock and a place to keep their stuff, as well as staying out of the weather. And it is something that is fast and inexpensive compared to other types of housing. We don't need a developer to do it. We just need a place where the city will allow it. And so just keep that on the radar. Seamus?
I guess I just want to be clear that when I say prioritizing the warming center, navigation center, I'm not discounting housing at all. I'm looking at it as a step-by-step process.
Absolutely.
In which getting that immediate warming center done, navigation center to access services, both while working on getting a more permanent structured housing situation, whether that's a tiny home community or access to the seriously needed affordable housing in the area.
Yes, thank you.
I would just like to support what Seamus said, and I just want to add, when talking about community partners, you know, again, it comes down to resources and timing, but there are things that the county is working on, and we are in the process of signing a contract with AOC for technical assistance on housing. And so there are things that are taking place and happening. I know none of it is happening at the speed that people would like it to see, but to Seamus's point, there's that immediate need, and there is the longer term need that has a lot more complexities to it because it does require significant more funding. But there are things that are happening.
Yes, thank you.
I also think that we need to keep in mind that not every person is going to want every one of these things or make use of every one of these things. As Seamus indicated, not everybody's going to use the warming center. Not everybody's going to use a navigation center. Not everybody is going to want a tiny house. Some people will continue to want to stay in their tents at the mill pond. And so we have to remember that every one of these strategies is not an end all and be all. And we cannot discount those people who walk away from those strategies, who walk away from those things. Again, the other strategy that I think, and it's happening now, and we know it's happening now, is the ability for people to live in their RVs and live in their cars. I think that makes a difference to some people in the community.
I think it's important to recognize, as a group that people's experiences are going to influence the way that they embrace whatever situations we're able to come up with and implement. I know for myself, based on my own experience in my decade of homelessness, even if we were to put in a shelter that has 100 beds and is, it's top of the line, everything is amazing. If I were to be back to being homeless, I still wouldn't go. And it's not because I'd lack faith in the facility or the staff or the programming that's there. It's because my experience in dealing with living in shelters has led me to the belief that I need shelter from shelters. Okay. And so there's that inherent barrier that's going to come up with people, especially those who have been outdoors long term, that we're not going to be able to rescue everybody. So we need to definitely remember that. That's all.
Anything more on items that would be make the most difference for those who are homeless?
Nobody's mentioned
Sharon?
Yeah, nobody's mentioned the idea of soup kitchen or feeding or dinners or sack lunches. And those are things that almost everybody, 100%, shows up for. Even if you want to sleep outside alone, you still need food. And I'm surprised that it's not even on the list. But for instance, the nonprofit Filling Empty Bellies is serving sack lunches to people who are shelter resistant and serving the community that way. So we have to think in terms of both food and shelter rather than separate the two. And I think someone might come for the dinner but not stay for the communal sleeping, which is difficult because I've experienced it. Some people snore, some people are schizophrenic and talk all the time. There's fights, but the idea that we had something available on super stormy nights is important because even the most resistant herd might want to come in during an 80-mile-per-hour windstorm now. So I think having those options available, even if people don't always choose to use them, is serving the community is equally important.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, the warming center and the navigation center kind of, for me, they encompass food as well, and they also encompass showers and laundry. So they're those vital services that are needed for survival. I think that's part of the role of a warming center and navigation center, but it's good to mention them individually, that we don't forget that. Anything more? Rick?
Well, maybe repeating myself, but just chiming in with what Seamus said. As I've walked around asking some homeless people in Seaside and also up in Astoria, you know, what could the city really do for you, or what would you really enjoy? And it's the usual response is nothing, just kind of leave us alone. And then I started throwing something out. I said, what if tiny homes were provided? And it was like, oh my gosh, that's more than I could possibly dream for. So a safe roof with a locking door is a big thing. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any things on any of this subject that people would like to add or make sure that gets mentioned?
Sharon?
One of the biggest objections I'm getting all the time in my advocacy for the homeless is, well, if we build something or if we present them with an option or food or shelter, they're going to flock to this one location. And if they're not local, we shouldn't help them type of attitude, that they're from somewhere else and we should send them somewhere else. And the problem with that is, in my experience in volunteering for the Sunday Supper for the last 5 years, is some of these people have been born and grown up in Seaside. Kenny Cox, for instance, you know, he grew up on 10th Avenue, a couple blocks from here, and he's living outside next to the public restroom right now. We put him up for a while, but he's one of those alcoholic semi-wet brains that is very hard to, you know, and he needs extra attention, and we couldn't deal with it anymore. But the point I'm trying to make is that people's attitude is we don't want to have a venue, because then it will bring in people from outside. And I think an important part of the education is these people are from Seaside. They went to Seaside High School. They are people that I grew up with and you grew up with, and they have the bottom fell out for them for many different reasons. And I think it's important to educate people about the fact that these are our own local citizens. And even people will object to people coming from another town nearby, like Warrenton or Astoria, because no, we're going to only serve Seaside people. And I think that's a kind of a shady excuse not to help people.
Yeah.
I mean, what does it matter where they're from? If they need help, they need help. And every community should be implementing something. And many communities have, but I feel that was one of the biggest objections that I've run into so far.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're about 20 after 2. If there's something more, we've got 10 more minutes. And if we're done, we're done. Seamus?
I noticed that Chief Ham wasn't here today, and
He was called to another meeting at the last minute.
Okay,
He got a hold of me.
okay. He
Sure.
left a comment in the Signal this week, and I think I need to read it here so that we can. I'm just going to read it. These people, referring to the homeless, these people unfortunately have the right to be able to rest, Ham said. They have a right to use public property, and there's not a lot we can do about it. When I read that, it deeply, deeply disturbed me. And I worry that having members of the task force and homelessness think tank making comments like these people unfortunately have the right to rest goes a long way towards removing credibility from either group, aside from the connotations that it puts out there. And I would hope that anybody who is making statements, whether that's to RJ Marks or to anybody else, we're more careful in what we say. Because if we are, through our own words, taking away from what we're trying to accomplish here, why are we even doing it? They're people. They have the right to rest. There's nothing unfortunate about it.
Of course, it's unfortunate. It's probably, I'm sure that he did not mean this way, but it came across this way.
I would really hope that that's the case, and I would encourage and even implore him. I hope he watches the recording. I would implore him to issue a clarifying statement, to say that the way I'm perceiving it, I'm erroneous in that, because I really hope that's the case. That's not the kind of statement that comes from the man that I've come to know and respect over the last several years. And so I really hope that I'm misconstruing what was said and that parts of the interview were left out of the written text there.
Go ahead, Nell.
I'd just like to comment on that. From what I've seen in Astoria and the chief of police there and what comments that he's been saying, and we, Rick and I kind of have a somewhat, I guess we could say, a personal relationship with him. And the city council in Astoria, in my opinion, has been using the police as the one antidote to homelessness. And I've heard the police chief say many times, we have no tools. They are not breaking the law. So I've seen a frustration built up over time that because they keep getting the calls and they're supposed to be doing something and taking a lot of time, a lot of their time on things that they can do nothing about. So I hear in that statement that kind of frustration. And I would hope that the city of Seaside and this group are providing input to show, I mean, we don't have any policing solutions on our list. So I see some hope in that, other than the liaison. And that's needs more fleshing out to see what that is and what the role is. But I hope that that's what you were hearing, Seamus.
I would like to add the liaison position for the Seaside Police Department. That is actually a strategy that the police chief has already fleshed out and has approached the city council about. So I know that when I've read some things in the paper that I've said, not on this subject, but on other subjects, I've read it and said to myself, oh my God, do I realize how somebody else might have taken my words? And they weren't bad words. It was just the juxtaposition of the words. I have talked with the police chief. The unfortunate tends to be more about no guidelines, and that we don't have something in place already. And I have said this publicly at city council meetings. Our police are in a very difficult position. We have ordinances that say one thing. We have the Ninth Court of Appeals, whatever it is. We have the most recent Oregon state laws that put the police right in the middle of never being able to do the right thing.
Right.
And I think that's the position that the police chief is coming from.
I'm sure that's the case. And that's why I'm not saying I'm looking for an apology. I'm saying a clarifying statement would be helpful.
There's some of that
Because
communication that we've
two
been
lines
talking
by
about.
itself isn't great. And
It's
especially in conjunction with the fact that in the forums that we did previously and a couple times here, we've said outright, we're not looking for solutions. It's
Right.
The words have power. And I think it's something that's important to be cognizant of.
And the one other thing you always have to remember is that what you read in the paper is taken out of context of a conversation.
Exactly. Again, that's
And
why I'm
you
looking for
don't know what he
clarification.
said. Yeah, you don't know what he said before. You don't know what he said after.
Which is what I already acknowledged. Yes.
Right, right.
So Tita, I think this conversation fits in with one of the items on our list, which is the communication, where I don't know if it's the city or who is taking charge of the message that's going out there on behalf of the city, and frequent communication and not relying on what gets into the newspaper. So I think that's what will help to, send a positive message.
Thank you. Okay, I will clean this up a little bit. I have misspellings all over the place. I'll make this easier to read, and I will send it out. I will also send out the intake form that CCA uses, and I don't know how CCA publishes their statistics, but we'll look into that too. Because that is a high priority. I think we've had some really good discussion today. I want to make sure we stay out of the weeds of how will we do this, who exactly is going to do it, what are the steps going to be, etc. Because what we're presenting for the council, it sort of falls mostly in conceptual, but some in also practical. And I don't exactly know what we're going to be talking about the next meeting, but I think it will still be of great importance. As we get closer to coming together, yeah. Nell, last words from you?
I don't have anything further.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for taking your time. Your time is valuable, and I really appreciate it again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.